Hello friends! How's it going? I hope you're having a super duper day. I know I am. I've got my hot chocolate. I just found out that I'm going to be able to graduate early, and not to get political, but Georgia and Pennsylvania are blue now. So by the time you see this, we might know the outcome of the election. I don't know. Anyway, let's get started. I have a lot of books to talk about. I've got 11 books. Let's go back for a second. Today I'm going to be talking about my wrap-up for October, and then I also have, I think, one book from September and a few that I've already read in November that I wanted to chat with you about. It's been a while, I know. I'm trying not to make this a habit, but school has been crazy. Not to be the excuse person, but anyway, trying to get back on top of things. So hopefully that works out, because I am not a fan of not uploading consistently. First up, I just want to talk about one book I read in September, which is The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. I mentioned it in a few videos, I think. Basically, it's a murder mystery about a group of friends who goes on a trip for New Year's Eve, and one of them gets murdered, and you don't find out who the murderer is or the victim until a significant way through the book. So that is something I've never seen before. Loved it. Gave this book 4 stars. I was a big fan. I'm hoping that I'll be able to read her new book soon, The Guest List, because I've heard that that one is a little bit more refined, you know. And then into the October books, which is what the majority of this video is about. First up, we have If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. I had very mixed feelings on this one. I gave it 3 stars. Let me explain. I didn't feel like lukewarm about the book. I had very positive feelings and very negative feelings at the same time. So first of all, M.L. Rio includes some pretty sensitive subjects in the book, like eating disorders and mental health problems, addiction, but it didn't feel like she was really giving attention to them. It just sort of felt like they were in there for shock value or something. And those are topics that definitely need to be dealt with in a certain way, and I just didn't like the way that she did that. I will say the Shakespeare element, oh my god, I didn't even talk about what the book is about. It's about these drama students at a conservatory where they only study Shakespeare. It's very reminiscent of The Secret History, so if you read that and you liked it, I guess give it a try. I don't know. I definitely enjoyed The Secret History more. So, because The Secret History is like the ultimate dark academia, at least that's what I've heard, and of the dark academia that I've read, I would have to agree with that. So, if you really liked that one, I guess give it a try, but like I said, I did not enjoy If We Were Villains nearly as much as I did The Secret History. But I will say the Shakespeare element of If We Were Villains was incredible. I loved that. It was really, really cool. I'm not a Shakespeare nerd at all. I haven't read many Shakespeare plays, honestly, although there is one later on in the video. If you are a huge fan of Shakespeare, you will probably like it much more than I did, even though I still appreciated that element of it. But yeah, overall, I think If We Were Villains was a little bit of a miss for me. Next up, I read 2 Shirley Jackson books, which were both really fun. I really like Shirley Jackson. And I've heard her described as like this big figure in horror, which kind of surprised me because neither one of the books I read were particularly scary. It was more just like dark, sinister, kind of creepy. So I read The Haunting of Hill House and We Have Always Lived in the Castle. I watched The Haunting of Hill House, I think it was 2 years ago. Did it come out 2 years ago? I don't know. Anyway, I watched the show, which terrified me. I'm not a horror person, but I made it through. It was really, really good, but it scared me. So I was curious to see how the book compared with the series. Very different. Some of the characters are the same names, but the characters in the book are not related. So essentially it's about this researcher. He's a doctor, PhD, not a medical doctor, I don't think. But he wants to explore this haunted house called Hill House, and he recruits a few people to come with him, stay with him. Luke is one of the people who goes with him. Eleanor and Theodora are also there. Luke, Nellie, and Theo in the series, but none of them know each other. They're all strangers living in this haunted house, and slowly throughout the book, the house starts to sort of claim one of the people. I guess the more vulnerable, I don't know, but it follows the characters staying in the house. I think they only last like a week or something before something disastrous happens, so I won't spoil it, but I definitely recommend it. If you've seen the show, it's different, and the ending will still, I mean, it's not like a spoiler or anything, really. A little bit, but not really. So, if you've seen the show, I would definitely recommend it, and if you haven't, maybe read the book and then watch the series, because I always like going into books knowing nothing. Oh, I gave that one 4 stars. And then the other book, We Have Always Lived in the Castle. I think I like this one actually more than The Haunting of Hill House. It's about a girl named Mary Cat. She's 18 and she's living in a house with her sister, Constance, who's, I think, 28. I'm not positive. But anyway, they live with their Uncle Julian, and basically they've lived in this house for, I think, generations. And they're all the people in their family are sort of cut off from the rest of the village. The villagers are really cruel to them, and it sort of follows Mary Cat years after a tragedy has occurred. Someone put arsenic in the family's sugar, and so most of them died except for Mary Cat, Constance, and Uncle Julian. So they're all just living together. They have very strict rules of how they live. It's really interesting to hear from Mary Cat how the story is happening, and it's a fascinating look into her psychology and the way that their family works. Definitely an interesting book, definitely very dark. There's themes of sort of like witchcraft a little bit. The cat Jonas is great, love him. Things sort of start to go downhill once their cousin Charles arrives with no warning. It was a really interesting book. Definitely very different than anything I've read before, so I would definitely recommend checking that one out. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Next up, another gothic novel, Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I talked about this one in one of my vlogs. I'll link it so you can check that one out. Rebecca's basically about our unnamed protagonist who goes on vacation one time, meets a man named Maxim de Winter, and they end up getting married. And then the two go back to Maxim's estate called Manderley, and essentially it's our protagonists struggle to fit into civilized life and fill the role left by Maxim's first wife, Rebecca. It's a lot about the protagonist's psychology and inferiority and how she's feeling just wrong, and how she's always thinking about what Rebecca would have done, or Rebecca's described as this beautiful, amazing, perfect woman, basically, and she's just really struggling to live up to that, which is made so much worse by the housekeeper, Mrs. Danvers, who loved Rebecca and doesn't like the new wife so much. So she is sort of like the antagonist of the story, I guess, and she is really unsettling at times. Yeah, I gave this one 4 stars as well. Big fan. Yeah, I really realized this year how much I do enjoy gothic literature, so that was fun. Definitely recommend Rebecca. I think that's all I have to say about it. Next up, The Phantom of the Opera. Oh, I have this one. This one, not my fave. I think part of that is because I've never seen the musical or the movie or anything. I went into it completely blind, not knowing anything, and I think just based on the novel, the story, so essentially it's about this haunted opera house who's haunted by the opera ghost, and there's a love story involved. There's literally a love triangle between the ghost, this girl, a singer named Christine, and her boyfriend Raoul. Raoul is just such a drama queen. Oh my god, it's insane. I don't know what it was about the writing, but I just was not invested in any of the characters. I didn't really care about any of them. So that was sort of made it difficult to enjoy the book. I don't know. I felt really funky about this one. Like, there was nothing wrong with it, but I just didn't enjoy it, really. So I gave this one 3 stars. I really don't know what else to say. I just felt very meh about it, you know? Again, I think I would love, oh my god, I would love to go see a Broadway production of it. Absolutely. Sounds incredible. But the novel just did not do it for me. Next up, we have Carrie by Stephen King. This is, I think, my second Stephen King novel, and I really enjoyed it, actually. I thought it was a fun one. You know, I've never seen the movie, so I knew bits and pieces of the story. Basically, it's about this girl named Carrie White, and she has telekinetic powers. Her mother is ultra-conservative, ultra-religious, and doesn't let her have a life, basically. And eventually she decides she's fed up with that. Yeah, it's intense. It's very intense. But one thing I will say about Stephen King, I think I mentioned it in a video where I talked about The Shining, but the way he talks about sex is so grody. Like, can you please stop talking about teenage girls in the locker room? It makes me so uncomfy. I found the interactions between Carrie and her mother especially interesting. And another really interesting thing is the way that Carrie thinks to herself and like the conversations she has with herself over religion and boys and, you know, just being a teenager and the way those ideas contradict each other. I guess I would recommend it, except it's like I should stop reading Stephen King because he's so nasty, but also I want to read more Stephen King because of the like supernatural elements and stuff. I don't know, I have very mixed feelings on Stephen King. But overall, I gave this one 4 stars. So Carrie and a few of the other books I'm going to be talking about are inspired by the Rory Gilmore reading list. I really had a bit of a rush at the end of October and beginning of November to get as many Rory Gilmore reading list books out of the way as possible. I ended up getting 4. Reading 4 in like a week, so Carrie was number 1. Next up is Freaky Friday, which is a children's book. Freaky Friday by Mary Rogers. Yeah, I gave this one 3 stars just because it's literally written for children, so that's why I didn't personally enjoy it. If you've seen the movie with Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis, you'll know the story. A mother and daughter switch bodies for a day. It's very odd. It's a fun story, but it was just like, I was sitting there listening to the choices that this girl is making, and I'm just like, stop, don't do that, no. Because she's like 12 or something, and I'm like, yeah, obviously I can make better decisions like that at 19, like. Anyway, it was like frustrating to see her make all these mistakes and stuff, and I'm like, your mom's gonna be so mad. She wasn't, but whatever. Anyway. If you're in the mood to read a fun, quick children's story, I guess I would recommend this one, but it's not really my usual reading taste, and yeah, I don't know. It was a little bit of a weird one, but anywho. Freaky Friday, 3 stars. Let's move on. Alright, next up, this is actually my only 5-star read in this entire video. It is Dead Blondes and Bad Mothers by Sadie Doyle. Oh my god, I talked about this one a lot in a vlog that I haven't posted yet, but yeah, see, I've got a vlog from like 3 weeks ago that I haven't posted, so that will probably go up next week, I'm guessing, but I talked about this book in that vlog. Oh my goodness, I read this for a book club that I'm doing with school now. I just joined a book club, which is pretty exciting, and this was our first book. It is a non-fiction, which is something I'm usually not into, about the horror genre and how women are portrayed. So the subtitle here is Monstrosity, Patriarchy, in the Fear of Female Power. So Sadie Doyle goes on many rants about how the media portrays women in horror movies, horror books, TV shows, all that sort of stuff. And she's got a handy dandy little index at the back that tells you which things are in it, so you can avoid those chapters or pages if You don't want the spoilers. But Rebecca was actually mentioned in here and discussed for like 4 or 5 pages, so that was really interesting. Buffy's in here. We love Willow. Oh my gosh. If anyone wants to just talk about Willow, please leave me a comment because I would love to get into a discussion about her. I love her so much. This book just blew my mind 1 page at a time. I think I might have said that exact sentence in the vlog, but it's true. There were some, I will say, there are some points she makes in here that felt like a little bit of a logical leap, but it didn't take away from my enjoyment of the book at all. So if you are a feminist, if you're not a feminist, if you're a woman or not a woman, read this book. It is so good, okay? This book changed my view on nonfiction. It inspired me to read more nonfiction, changed my view on media and how women are portrayed. I've literally noticed ideas from this coming into some of my classes, and I just want to go on like a rant about how women are portrayed in a certain play I'm reading or a movie that I'm watching for a class. It's just, it has changed my perspective on so many things, and I did not think that a nonfiction like this could do that, and so it's just really incredible to see that, and I'm very excited to read more books like this. So if you have any recommendations on feminist nonfiction or, you know, anything about media and stuff, let me know, please, because I really want to get into reading more nonfiction. Alright, 2 more. Next up, A Midsummer Night's Dream by William Shakespeare. I ended up giving this one 3 stars, which is a completely subjective rating. 100% subjective. I'm not critiquing William Shakespeare at all, okay? I don't feel qualified to do that. All I'm doing is saying that Shakespeare for fun is not for me. I've read 3 of his plays other than this one, and they were all for school. So I was like, you know what, I really want to be that girl who just reads Shakespeare for fun. That didn't happen. Last up, we have Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. I gave this one 4 stars. This one is about a girl named Catherine who goes to Bath on a trip with some family friends, and she runs into all sorts of interesting people in Bath and ends up going to one of their properties, which is Northanger Abbey. There's got romance, of course, it's Jane Austen. But this one I found very different from her other novels because it's like Jane Austen's take on Gothic, which is hilarious, okay, really funny. I feel like Jane Austen is really good at writing comedy, which is something I probably would never have expected before I read any of her books, but like her books are funny. I felt like, yes, there was definitely an emphasis on romance in this one, but it felt not as dramatic, and there was more like mystery and darker themes in this one than are in a lot of her other novels. I gave it 4 stars. Why did I not give it 5 stars? I don't know. That's a good question. Anywho, the Tilneys, who own Northanger Abbey, delightful characters. Loved them. It's funny because Jane Austen has more of like a narrator in this one. Like sometimes the narrator addresses the audience directly and talks about, oh, my heroine, whatever. I don't know. But I've just never seen that in any of her other works. So Jane Austen is like her own character in this one, I guess, which was really interesting to me because this novel just felt a lot different than the other ones I've read of hers. Those are all of the books that I've read in October, plus I think 4 extras, 11 bucks. There you have it, folks. Bro, time is going so fast. What is up with that? That is my October wrap up. I hope you enjoyed. Leave me suggestions for my winter TBR in the comments. Let me know what you read this month in October. And thanks for hanging out with me. It's been a good time. I hope you've had a good time as well. And hopefully I will see you next time. Bye!